What's going on, beautiful people? What's going on? Great day to you. Great day to you. Out in the park, chilling, relaxing. It's actually nice. At least it's nice in the shade. I have this microphone on. I don't know. Hopefully, you guys can hear me all right. But we are continuing the reading with Jam. I know I've missed probably like a week, if not week and a half, maybe. Um, yes. So I'm trying to pick this back up. We are still working through Real Artists Don't Starve by Jeff Goins. After I finish this book, though, I think I'm gonna transition my lives to my Twitch channel. I do have a Twitch page where I make music and I do other creative stuff. So I'm gonna dedicate my creative things in my practicing in public to my Twitch channel, just because I like the way it works, and I feel like it's more convenient for those who are watching too. Because I know, like on Instagram, you can't fast forward stuff. You don't have like the 2 times speed or whatever, so you probably don't want to sit here and listen to me read slowly when you could, sit and listen to me read or read this book quicker. So I think you get more capabilities and stuff like that via Twitch. I just feel like it's a better live experience for this kind of stuff. So after I finish reading Real Artists Don't Starve, that might be sometime in August. Maybe not. If I'm reading every day, I could probably get done this before the end of August. But I will be transitioning all of my fun, practice in public, creative stuff to my Twitch channel, which is just Jamiel Cal-Pin. So you can just go to your Twitch, go to my Twitch, go to Twitch TV, twitch.tv, um, and search for Jamiel Cal-Pin. You'll be able to find me and find my stuff there. I'm also going to put it in my link tree. My link tree is in my bio. So if you just click that link, you will see all my stuff. You will see the Do Make Something podcast, the Do Make Something YouTube channel. You'll see my Cal-Pin Creations, which is where, that's my business. That's where I provide technical services for content creators. So I'll edit your podcast and stuff like that. My voiceover stuff will be there too. All the things, because I figured that's how you're supposed to use a link tree. You put all your things there. So, yes, click the link in the bio so you can get to the link tree and have access to all this stuff, which is going to include my Twitch channel. It also includes a channel with Alicia and I, our travel and dream building channel, which is Fox and Miles, The Adventures of Fox and Miles. So be sure to check that out. Subscribe to our YouTube. We appreciate it. We appreciate the support. We have some new content coming. So if you want to see all that, if you want to check it out, and if you want to support, check it out. Fox and Miles, The Adventures of Fox and Miles. You can search that anywhere and you'll get access to it. All right, today we are continuing to read Real Artists Don't Starve, and I believe we left off in chapter 8. Chapter 8. So I don't have my stand with me right now, but there's a pretty sky above me, so I'm just going to put the phone down and you can listen to the text. There we go. All right. Again, I hope you all can hear me okay. I'm in the process of trying to get a new phone too, because the phone that I have, it is a Motorola. It's kind of trash. So I'll probably be getting back to the Samsung soon. But yes, we are continuing and finishing up chapter 8. I can't believe I stopped right there. There's like one section left. So we're going to go into chapter 9. I think chapter 9 is, it's not that long. Let's check real quick. All right, yeah, I think I have some time. So we want to finish chapter 8 and then get into chapter 9. And the end of chapter 8 is, or the title of chapter 8 is Practice in Public. And we're picking up from the section, the point is the practice. When Stephanie Halligan finally mustered the courage to ask her fans to buy her work, she was surprised they said yes. But that's because the hardest work was done. For years, she had been illustrating her blog with cartoons, and just as with Led Zeppelin, all that practice adds up to something. Not just the attention of an audience, but the skill to support it. Even the most generous of audiences will not tolerate an amateur. Stephanie drew a daily cartoon for 2 years. She did it every day without fail, understanding that the practice enables her to be where she is today. And because of that practice, she was able to realize her childhood artistic sale written on it. Not long after this, Melissa fell in love with the art of calligraphy. She dreamed of creating ketubah art for Jewish wedding ceremonies. A ketubah is a prenuptial document that lists the rights and responsibilities of both the groom and bride, and the document itself is a work of art. Before the digital revolution, and long before high quality printing became accessible to anyone, a ketubah was often made by hand, always incorporating beautiful calligraphy and hand lettering. Because this art was such a niche market, it seemed like a viable way for Melissa to earn an income. Sure enough, just a couple of years after starting with calligraphy, she was commissioned to create her first ketubah for $700. It was, however, dozens of hours of work, which translated to not much of a living wage. Still, making money, making art, was a revolutionary concept for her. At the time, Melissa's husband was supporting both of them financially, so she didn't worry about making a living. Her art was more of a hobby, with just enough income to pay for her supplies, weekend workshops, and annual conferences. But when she but when she and her husband divorced, Melissa realized she needed to find a way to make a living with her art. I needed an identity. She told me about the difficult time after her divorce. It wasn't enough for her just to make things. She had to make things of value, things people wanted. So the custom ketubah art transitioned to selling ketubah prints, which eventually led to the business she has now, which is helping other people find and reclaim their own creative passions. My mission on the planet, she told me, is to get people creating. Personally, she doesn't care if people want to make money from their creative efforts, but a lot of people do want to generate income from their creative thing. Today, Melissa Dinwiddie still calls herself an artist, but she's also now an author and speaker. In addition to selling her art online, she runs an online community for women creatives, leads creativity retreats, and brings her experience as a performing artist to workshops, keynotes, and seminars for organizations and corporations. And now that she's doing this full time, she can't imagine going back to working for free. Once she crossed that threshold and began charging what she was worth, her confidence grew. Other people may not like your art, she said, for they may sneer at it for being commercial art rather than fine art. But for me, making a living from my art was indisputable proof that I was an artist. I am making a living. Sorry, I'm outside, guys. There are bugs. Interrupting the interrupting the reading time. All right, let's pick this back up. When I was in middle school, I used to read while I was walking to the bus stop to go to school. I would try that now, but I don't know if my phone, I don't know if the internet service or the connection for the live is going to work effectively. So it's probably best that I just sit still. But maybe one day we'll work on that. Maybe we can read while walking or something like that with Jam. But anyways, let's continue. Sorry. All right. Melissa's story is confirmation that at some point you have to let people pay you. And for many of us, this is a discipline. Of course, we don't have to make a living from our art to be an artist, but there is, in Melissa's words, something affirming about getting paid to do what you love. Creative success is about getting to do your work without constraint. these unpaid opportunities put them at a disadvantage. Out of the 9,200 students surveyed, 63.1% of those with a paid internship received at least one job offer, whereas only 37% of those who were not paid received an offer. When it came to salary, the results were even worse. For those who were offered jobs, the unpaid interns received less money than those without any internship experience period. Working for free is not the opportunity we often think it is. Opportunity doesn't pay the bills. Exposure won't put food on the table. And working for free sets a bad precedent that's hard to break later. If you want to stop starving, you can't continue doing favors for people and expect it to lead to anything other than bankruptcy. Imagine if Michelangelo had never charged for his art. Would he have been able to create such a massive body of work, spending most of a century on it? What about Hemingway? If he had written only for the love of his craft, would the world have ever received The Old Man and the Sea? It's unlikely. And here we are faced with an important principle, the rule of value. The starving artist works for free. The thriving artist always works for something. As artists, we must value our work before others will. One of the oldest lies we believe is that if you do something you love and charge for it, the money somehow taints the work. When it comes to other trades, payment is expected. But with writers, photographers, designers, and other artists, we seem to think they don't warrant the same serious treatment that an engineer or a carpenter might receive. Why is this? Part of the blame belongs to the artists themselves. We often go along with the devaluation of our work. We who are prone to self-doubt and insecurity feed the questioning of what value we offer. So when someone asks for a favor, we go along with the request. Real artists don't have to get paid to create, do they? Can't we just do it for the love of it? Maybe not. When we undervalue our work, we end up playing the martyr, resenting the free gig halfway through the process. When I noticed myself resenting my clients and wanting to quit, Melissa Dinwiddie said, I realized I don't need to quit. I just need to raise my prices. If you're feeling resentment at all, you're charging too little. In the years since that first commission, Melissa has transitioned from hobbyist to professional, codifying her approach to charging for her art. We live in a culture that takes money very seriously, she said. Because we take money seriously, we take seriously the things we pay for. At the same time, income isn't everything. I hope this doesn't demonetize or kick my drone off, because people are playing music. At the same time, income isn't everything. Becoming a thriving artist is not just about making a living. It's about setting your work up for success. Money becomes the means to doing more work. We must, therefore, learn the discipline of charging what we're worth, as Melissa did. When her friend agreed on the sum of $25 for that hand-lettered piece, it was a simple exchange, but one that changed everything. And once she started getting paid to create, there was no longer any doubt in her mind about whether or not she was an artist. Money is part of the process of becoming an artist. If for no other reason, then it affirms you are a professional. But the decision to be taken seriously is yours alone. You set the tone for how people will treat you, which means you must believe your work is worth charging for. Always working for something. When the prolific science fiction writer Harlan Ellison was asked to contribute an interview for a film project on the making of the TV show Babylon 5, he said, absolutely. There was just one small stipulation. All you've got to do is pay me. What? The young woman on the other end of the call asked, as depicted in a video on YouTube. You've got to pay me, he replied. Well, she said, everyone else is just doing it for nothing. This was when Ellison, who has a reputation for being a big gruff, lost it. By what right would you call me and ask me to work for nothing? He said. Do you get a paycheck? Does your boss get a paycheck? Well, yes, she admitted. But it would be good publicity. Lady, he said calmly, tell that to someone a little older than you who just fell off the turnip truck. As a longtime screenwriter, Ellison has seen many come and go in Hollywood. He understands how the business works, what the economics are, and how one can survive in a very competitive market that is often unkind to creatives. He's also seen new writers come to town not understanding that they ought to be paid for their work. It's the amateurs, he said. who make it hard for the professionals. Ellison has a standard he sticks to. He never works for free. Regardless of what everyone else does, he will not give in to a system that takes advantage of talented people because that's the status quo. And because of the standard, he is one of the most successful writers in Hollywood, having published more than 1,700 stories, screenplays, scripts, and essays. Apparently, doing the opposite of what everyone else is doing is not always a bad plan. My suspicion is that charging for his art has less to do with the money and more to do with dignity. It's a matter of taking yourself seriously and seeing others do the same. And nobody knew that better than Michelangelo. In the spring of 1548, an equally cantankerous artist sent a letter from Rome to his nephew, Leonardo, in Florence. At 73 years old, having sculpted the David, painted the Sistine Chapel, and accomplished numerous other creative feats, Michelangelo was disgruntled about a priest's request that he paint an altarpiece. But it wasn't the request itself that offended him. Rather, it was the way it was made. "Tell the priest not to write to me any longer, as Michelangelo sculptor," the aging artist wrote his nephew. Because here I'm known only as Michelangelo Buonarroti, and if a Florentine citizen wants to have an altarpiece painted, he must find himself a painter. I was never a painter, or a sculptor like one who keeps a shop. I haven't done so in order to uphold the honor of my father and brothers. Today, that letter may come across as grumpy, but we have to remember that early in the Renaissance, artists were not honored members of society. They were manual laborers, akin to handymen, and at this time, only nobility or socially prominent individuals had surnames. What we see here are not merely the complaints of an old man, but an attitude that was true of Michelangelo his entire life. He refused to be counted among his peers. Michelangelo's insistence that the priest call him by his last name was a power play. He was not just another hired hand. He was an artist, a title he spent his life redefining. So the clergyman's condescending request made the artist set the record straight. Michelangelo was more than a manual laborer, and the priest's refusal to acknowledge this was an insult. This belief made him, ultimately, the wealthiest artist of his time. His success was due, in part, to how the artist thought differently of himself. Such thinking guided him through life and afforded him opportunities no artist had ever before received. Don't make a habit of working for free. Without money, you don't get to make more art. Try to always work for something, even if that something is the chance to do work that pays. But be very careful here, because it can be easy to set a bad precedent that you don't value your work. And if you don't, neither will anyone else. So charging what you're worth begins with the belief that you're worth what you charge. Become your own patron. But what about the person who wants to create for the sake of creating? I don't care about the money, he says. I just want to make my art. Where does this person fit? Paul Jarvis worked for corporate clients building websites, which was a decent living, but one in which he felt that his creative work was beholden to the whims of other people. Since he was already self-employed as a contractor, he decided to separate himself one more layer from the world of bureaucracy and red tape to launch his own business. There wasn't one moment where I was like, I can't do this, he said. But more like repeatedly over time, I just kept noticing how far my view of the world and my client's view of the world differed. I worked for myself, after all, because I wanted my views and beliefs to drive my work instead of profits or shareholders. Paul started looking more intensely for the type of work and the type of companies and clients that felt good to work with. It was a gradual shift, he said, to move away from the Fortune 500s and move toward mindful entrepreneurs as clients. I'm fairly sure there wasn't any change to my income either, since I've never dropped my rates. Income stayed the same, but the feels definitely grew. I was happier to work. Not that it was all rainbows and butterflies shooting out of my computer screen at all times. It was still work, but overall it was more enjoyable, and I didn't mind putting more of me into it. Today, Paul is a designer and writer who is, in his own words, spends his time as the intersection of creativity and commerce. He sells books and courses based on 2 decades of experience as a freelancer. He finally stopped waiting to get paid by some corporate benefactor and took his destiny into his own hands. This is the new Renaissance in action. No longer do artists have to be circus performers playing for peanuts. we can acknowledge that we're worth and demand to be paid. What we're worth and demand to be paid. We can become our own patrons, and if we learn to charge what we're worth. Pick up. We can become our own patrons if we learn to charge what we're worth. Recently, I met with Bill Ivey, the former chairman for the National Endowment of the Arts. He told me that we sometimes think the alternative to the starving artist is what he calls the subsidized artist, but that's the wrong way to think about it. Art needs money. We can deny it all we want and pretend starving makes for better art, but starving often makes for no art at all. Paint costs money. Ink does too. So does food and just about everything else in life. You have to find a way to pay for your art if you want to keep making it. I don't think there is any serious evidence, Ivy told me, that freeing an artist from commercial... sorry, guys. Something flying on me again. Anyway, continue. Show must go on. That freeing an artist from commercial constraint or other constraints is a direct line to higher quality work. Still, we drag our feet on this. If only a patron would come along and pay my bills, we think. If only I didn't have to worry about money or business. If only I could just create. But the responsibility for your getting paid is yours, and yours alone. And maybe this is not a bad thing, after all. Creativity and commerce have always coexisted, and these constraints can create unique opportunities in and of themselves. Financial need can force an artist to hit her deadlines faster, and as much as art needs money, money also needs art. The popes and kings of the world are indebted to artists for preserving their legacies via portraits and tombs and all kinds of art. Art and business have always needed each other and worked together over the years. The world we live in today is the result of such a timeless marriage. This matter of art and money is not a balancing act, though. It is a dance. Our best work comes from the tension of trying to serve our craft and meet the demands of the market. This is the world we live in. Charles Dickens did some of his best work while serializing his stories to pay the bills. Vincent van Gogh's genius may have emerged from the financial strains that ailed him, but it was his brother's money-mindedness that kept him creating. Money and art, we need them both. Some artists tend to think making money is either a system you sell out to or something to be avoided altogether. But in reality, it's neither. If you don't make money, you won't have any art to make. We must seek to better understand the business of being an artist. Ignoring this reality is the fastest route to stop creating altogether. To be an artist is to be an entrepreneur. We must learn to embrace this tension and the beauty that comes from it. For so long, Paul Jarvis told me, business has owned art, but now it's the other way around, and I love that. It's not just traditional artists who are redefining the way creative work is considered. It's also writers and actors and designers who are stepping up to acknowledge the value they offer. To be a thriving artist, you have to adopt the mindset of an entrepreneur. This doesn't mean you have to be greedy, but you can't be naive either. Like Melissa Dinwiddie, you must become comfortable with accepting payment for the effort you put forth. Charging what you're worth isn't just about compensation, it's about dignity, the value you place on your own work, and the value other people give it. When Michelangelo set out to become an artist, he wasn't just chasing a passion, he was trying to re-establish his family name. He needed people to take him seriously. Like the master, we must require the world to do the same, letting go of the myth that artists are not worth their wages. Your work matters, but the world won't recognize this until you do. You have to avoid the temptation to give all your work away for free, believing it will somehow lead to compensation. It won't. Those opportunities often leave the artist feeling frustrated and bitter. I'm not saying you can't be generous or that you should be arrogant, but there's nothing wrong with seeing the value in your work. In the new Renaissance, art can be business, and business can be art. To believe anything else will leave you feeling stuck, frustrated, and bitter. It's time to stop undervaluing your work and charge what you're worth. And that concludes chapter 9 of Real Artists Don't Starve. You can't see that. that concludes chapter 9 of Real Artists Don't Starve by Jeff Goins. I still have to put a link so that you can get a copy of the book if you would like. I will work on that. Thank you guys for joining me for Reading with Jam. Like I mentioned before, after I finish this book, I will be transitioning to Twitch from my live streaming creative stuff, practicing public. So if you're ever interested, just go to my Twitch channel, and there you can see me. I make music there, I make beats and stuff there, but I'm also going to be reading and doing other creative stuff. Just because I like the Twitch platform better than Instagram Live, because I don't know, this just doesn't flow right to me. I don't know. I could be wrong, but we're gonna try that out because I have other stuff there, and it just works better, I think. But thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And if you have time and space, go outside. Go outside. Everybody needs a little bit of sunshine, a little bit of grounding, and a little bit of nature in their life. So make sure to do that and get some of that. All right. Talk to you guys later. Peace. Oh, that didn't end it.